Well, welcome everybody to the Sunday International Big Book Workshop. I'm Dan B and I'm a recovered alcoholic, sobriety date 1st of Feb 2021. This facilitated workshop is facilitated even by Campbell H. This study relies on you listening, but please we pray that you have your big book in hand and follow along with a pen and pencil or highlighter. Take down any notes and pause if you have to. Any questions you have, we'll take them at the end of the meeting. We will keep everybody muted during this workshop except for the facilitators. Any inappropriate behavior will not be tolerated and you will be removed by one of the co-hosts. This meeting is being recorded. The audio portion only is being recorded and only of the facilitators. The recording will be shut down at the end of the workshop to take any questions and to preserve your anonymity. How we start off with this meeting is with the step 3 prayer found on page 63. So please join in if you can. Thank you very much. God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self so that I better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. Amen. Have a great meeting, everyone. Over to you, Campbell.
Okay, thank you, Brother Dan. Great introduction. And welcome to the Keystone International Big Book Sunday Workshop. My name is Kimball. I'm a recovered alcoholic. And I want to say happy Father's Day again to all the fathers, mothers, and everybody involved, because mothers are involved with us fathers too. So, and happy Sunday. It is a blessing to be alive and sober once again today. So, like Brother Dan said, you can we're gonna open up after the meeting for questions, comments, likes, dislikes, whatever's on your mind. We here just to be helpful. So anything bothering anybody, let us know, and we'll talk about it. And welcome anybody new, anybody struggling, anybody coming back, or anybody been here a long time. Now, normally the focus been on this group since Joe gave it to me months ago. It's been about spiritual growth, right? Because we have to grow spiritually for the rest of our lives. Or else we in danger of taking another drink. And the drink for us is to die. So today I want to go back to what Bill told, what Dr. Bob told Bill Wilson. Let's not louse this thing up. Let's keep it simple. So you know what? We're going to keep it simple today. We're going back to, I'm going to go to the beginning of the book. You know, every week before this study starts, I tend to I always take it to God and I allow him to put what do you want me to share? And so this came to mind. So I messaged Brother Dan, I think it was Friday. I said, what do you think about this, Brother Dan? Let's go back to the basics, to the beginning. And that's what we'll do today, man. Hey, Brother Ivan, happy Sunday. I didn't get a chance to speak to you, I don't believe. But anyway, you know, so welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. On the very title page, it tells us the story of how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. You know, a lot of people see this and they may wonder what's the most important word in this little simple reading. Well, some people may say it's the story. Some people may say recovered. Some people may wonder, well, how many thousands of men and women actually went through this thing? But the most important part of this is the story. This is a story. And they're going to present us what happened, you know, what it was like for them, what happened, and what it was like afterward. And this book gives us a recipe. So we're going to be going through the recipe. But we're going to start off on the preface and through some of the forward to the editions, and then we'll move along. So just a few things to note. On page 97, the big book tells us helping others is the foundation stone of your recovery. A kind act once in a while isn't enough. So we must act a good Samaritan every day. So our main purpose is we being recovered alcoholics or recovering alcoholics, right? We try to reach out and help other people who are struggling. But God took us up out of the deep pit. And since I have recovered from alcoholism, so it's my job to help as many people as possible. I never want nobody to struggle as long as I did from this illness that we suffer from. I suffered from this illness for 42 years. And when I was actually 12 steps through the big book, I found I was the real alcoholic for 40 of those years. So within 2 years of my drinking at 14, by the time I was 16, I knew I had a drinking problem, but I didn't consider it a problem. I thought it was fun. But we know as time went on, the situation got worse, and because this stuff is progressive. It gets worse and worse year after year after year, month after month. And it beat me down eventually into a state of reasonableness. I used to didn't think I could live with or without alcohol, but taking the 12 steps, it proves different. I am loving life without this alcohol in my system. 3.5 years later, I'm still on fire from the first day that I came back to Alcoholics Anonymous. It's a fire that can't be put out, and I thank God for it, no doubt about it. So we know the purpose of this book, right, is to show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered. You know, for the newcomers or anybody struggling, we hope these pages will prove so convincing that no further authentication will be necessary. Another point I want to make before we get started, it says outline the program of action, right? This is going to be on page 94. The program of action is simply a recovery recipe. And so we explain how we made a self-appraisal, how you straighten out your past, and why you are now endeavoring to be helpful to others. It is important for the newcomers, anybody we helping, to realize that your attempt to pass this on to them plays a vital part in your recovery. Yes, actually, they may be helping you more than you are helping them. So true. So make it plain that they are under no obligation to you, that you only hope that they will try to help other alcoholics when they escape their own difficulties. Suggest how important it is that they place the welfare of other people ahead of their own. And you know what? That has been a blessing to me since the day that I was taken through this process. Helping others gets me out of self, and it gives me pleasure in helping other people without having a motive, right? See, in my drinking career, if I helped you, but I had a motive, I wanted something from you. I wanted to see what I could get from you. And I was going to get it because, you know, we alcoholics, they talking about we weak-willed people when it comes to alcoholism. But the fact is, we are strong-willed people because when we drinking, we're going to find some way, somehow to get another drink, to take from people, to beg people, or whatever we had to do. There's no doubt about it. So one more thing, then we hope on page 29, it says, we hope no one will consider these self-revealing accounts in bad taste. Our hope is that many alcoholic men and women desperately in need will see these pages, and we believe that it is only by fully disclosing ourselves and our problems that they will be persuaded to say, yes, I am one of them too. I must have this thing. This thing we are to have is a recipe for permanent recovery. Take the 12 steps. You know, I used to didn't think I need to take no steps. I used to tell myself, shoot, here, you started this drinking thing on your own. You can stop on your own. But evidence proved no, I couldn't, no matter how hard I tried, no matter how many years I tried. It simply did not work. I was one of them fools that was beyond human aid. Insane in the membrane. But, you know, the insane part was knowing I was going to act a fool when I drank. And I drank anyway, so that ain't nothing but insane. You know? So, Dan, if you would, let's go through the preface right quick. I got a few points to highlight. So you can read the first two full paragraphs, and we'll roll.
Yeah. Down to benefactor. Hi everybody. Preface. Kicking off from here then, please. This is the 4th edition of the book Alcoholics Anonymous. The first edition appeared in April 1939, and in the following 16 years, more than 300,000 copies went into circulation. The second edition, published in 1955, reached a total of more than 1,150,500 copies. The third edition, which came off the press in 1976, achieved a circulation of 11,698,000. Because this book has become the basic text for our society and has helped such large numbers of alcoholic men and women to recover, there exists strong sentiment against any radical changes being made in it. Therefore, the first portion of this volume describing the AA recovery program has been left untouched in the course of the revisions made for the second, third, and fourth editions. The section called The Doctor's Opinion has been kept intact, just as it was originally written in 1939 by the late Dr. William D. Silkworth, our society's great medical benefactor.
Oh, yeah, okay. Thank you, my brother, no doubt. Fourth edition. Now, I'll show you a copy. This is a copy of the first edition of the big book. This is actually it's the original copy. That's where it all started, right? But some of the things there's been some additions to it, right? The basic message stays the same. So, and it tells us because this book has become the basic text for our society and has helped such large numbers of alcoholic men and women to recovery, there exists strong sentiment against any radical changes being made in it. A basic text. Oh, yeah, what do we do with a basic text? Well, we study it. Just like in high school, when I used to take my geography classes, my math classes, I had to study because I had to take a test. And in order for me to pass that test, I had to study a textbook. So I love my textbook. But you know, this big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, we must study this book and we must practice what we learn. We must incorporate what we learn in this book so we can pass the test. You know, we alcoholics suffer from a malady of the mind, and then we suffer from this physical allergy in our body. The key point is the malady of the mind. See, the malady may not come into us immediately. What makes us alcoholic in the beginning is we simply, when we take a drink, we simply can't stop. My condition, that's the way it was in the early beginning. But as time went on, it started affecting my mind. I couldn't distinguish. I basically drank against my willpower. But then when I was finding 12-step and through this program, it simply solved that problem. It solved my mind problem, because the problem of the alcoholic is centers in the mind rather than in the body, right? But if their mind tells us to take that drink, then we put it in our body, then we got that physical allergy phenomenon, the craving, and we can't shut it off. Because, you know, I got thirsty as I drink. I don't know about y'all. I never could get enough. Shoot. And then the more I drank, like during my course of drinking, if I started off with a cup this big, the more I drank during that same day, the cup got bigger and bigger. And I got thirstier and thirstier. Next day, you know, I take the whole 40 and just pour it down my throat, right? Or the whole 50 and just pour it down my throat. That's the way the physical allergy had me affected. So, and there has been no changes really made in this book. No, the first portion, matter of fact, this is a key point that I want to bring out. It says, therefore, the first portion of this volume describing the AA recovery program has been left largely untouched in the course of revisions made for the second, third, and the fourth edition. I just showed you the first edition. I do have the second and the third, and this is my fourth edition. So that means the information in the first portion of this book, it hadn't been changed. And the reason it ain't been changed because it worked in the beginning. So we continuously to study this book. I love these big book workshops, and I love what the message is being carried. Because I share something with y'all. I got sent to Alcoholics Anonymous in 1983. I had been in the military for 3 years. Somebody seen I had a drinking problem very early on in my life. Y'all know I didn't recover from alcoholism to 2020. Just imagine, over 3 decades, almost 4 decades in and out the fellowship. Because I wasn't getting this message right here that's presented in this book. I was getting people messages. This goes all these meetings. You'll get your meet makers make it. I demand you do 90 and 90 or 270 and 90. Just don't pick up. Put the plug in the darn jug. They were giving me Burger King sobriety, and I kept on Burger King drinking. You know, that's just the way it was. But when I got introduced to the Keystone Group, to 2020, February 3rd, 2020, my sobriety date, right? When I got with the Keystone Group, I was immediately 12 step, and I since recovered from alcoholism. Hadn't had a drink since, hadn't looked back since, thanks to God, because they showed me precisely what to do and how to do it. And it works, it really does. So, I wrote on to Dan. We go on to the forward to the first edition. The main things, first paragraph in the first edition. Forward to the first edition. Page XII, peeps.
Yeah, no problem. Forward to the first edition, everybody. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body to show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book. For them, we hope these pages will prove so convincing that no further authentication will be necessary. We think this account of our experiences will help everyone to better understand the alcoholic. Many do not comprehend that the alcoholic is a very sick person. And besides, we are sure that our way of living has its advantages for all.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Dan. No doubt about it. Now, when it says, it makes the statement, right? We of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Notice the words, we have recovered, right? At times you may hear statements in the rooms like, you can't recover from alcoholism. I'm always recovering. And it's a big dispute, especially on our Facebook page that we have. People just telling us we can't recover from alcoholism. Well, the lie detector determined that is a lie. We do recover. We're not recovering the rest of our lives, right? And this causes a great dispute. Well, I believe we recover because I know I have recovered. But see, the main purpose of this book is to show us precisely, exactly how these first alcoholics recovered. They don't say they recovering all of their life. Say, for instance, I break my finger, right? I'm going to be recovering for a short period of time, but eventually my finger's going to heal and get better, and then I can go on about my life. I'm no longer recovering from it. I have recovered from it. Just like if you get the flu, right? You go through a period of sickness. Eventually, you're going to recover from the flu. We're not going to have the flu the rest of our life. True enough, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. We'll always be alcoholics the rest of our lives. But thank God for a day to reprieve. Contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition, we don't have to pick that first drink up today because we have a defense against that first drink. Once we take the 12 steps, we have a defense. We're no longer dependent on ourselves. So, an important thing, I just noted a little bit about it. So, it's telling us this book is going to show us everything we need to know to get us sober and to keep us sober. So, believe what we read in this book. It's going to show us how they did it. And don't get caught up in the teachings, especially outside of AA. This is Alcoholics Anonymous. We recover from this thing. Outside agents will try to tell you different. Don't you get too hungry, angry, lonely, tired, all this good stuff. Well, shoot, I'm recovered, but I can get hungry, I can get angry, I can get lonely, I can get tired. I don't have to drink, though, because this program created a personality change that's sufficient enough for us all to recover from alcoholism. So, and then it goes on and says, and besides, we are sure our way of living has its advantages for us all. No doubt. On page 28 of our big book, it talks about this design for living. So, yeah, and I'll read that for you. It says at the top, it's the second paragraph on page 28, and it reads, we in turn sought the same escape with all the desperation of drowning men. What seemed at first a flimsy reed has proved to be the loving and powerful hand of God. A new life has been given us. If you prefer, a design for living that really works. No doubt about it. And it works. You know what? But we had to take the 12 steps, right? The reason this program didn't work for me for all those years, I simply did not take the 12 steps. I thought I was God. I thought I was running the show. But you know, alcoholism was running me, and I couldn't even realize it. It was always one more attempt, one more failure, and I failed utterly every time I tried to do it myself, by myself, and for myself. And that's really crazy right there. I already knew I was screwed up, but I just didn't know what was wrong with me. I just couldn't figure out why, when I drank, I couldn't stop, and then I couldn't figure out why I drank in the beginning. It could be a perfect day in my life, and my butt would ruin it by picking up a drink because I didn't know no better. It's really wild, but wild. So, you know, one more thing. In the beginning, it says it is important that we remain anonymous because we are too few at present to handle the overwhelming number of personal appeals which may result from this publication. Yeah, when this book was being presented, even from the time in 1935 to this book was written, published in 39, Dr. Bob was high on being anonymous, right? Because he didn't want people to know about his drinking. He's a big time surgeon, right? So he was hard on this anonymous thing. And plus, with the few that started this in the beginning, Bill and Bob, AA number 3 through 10, they would have been overwhelmed with so many inquiries coming in, so many people rushing them in. So that's why they wanted to keep it anonymous. So then they end up naming the book Alcoholics Anonymous. So I think that was pretty cool, and there's no doubt about it. And it's working today. So then it's a promise here on this very page too, when it tells us that the people that came before us, they have recovered from alcoholism. And as I said again, they are recovered. They are not just recovering, they are recovered. That's the promise this big book brings out. And that promise is found on the very title page that we just went over. So it don't matter how you want to present yourself, but everywhere that I present myself in AA, I simply announce I'm a recovered alcoholic because I'm not struggling, I'm not recovering. And that's because of the relationship that I have with God. He keeps me sober. He keeps me grounded. All I got to do is keep conscious contact with him. You know, the big book says every day is a day when we must carry the vision of God's will in all our activities, right? So talk to God. Step 11 gives us a 24-hour day clock. That's how I live today. And that's how, when I take somebody through the process, and no matter I help or talk to, I stress step 11 because that's when we have a contact with God all through the day, at night, in the morning. And it works. I mean, it works for me. So, with that being said, I'm going to forward to the second edition. Just a little glimpse on about the second edition, right? As we study these forewords, we'll learn a little bit about AA history, then the rapid acceleration in its memberships, the struggles which took place when the fellowship grew. We'll talk a little bit about how the traditions were introduced and the ways to carry this message to other alcoholics so they can receive the information and start the AA way of life. As we learn about how people from the outside helped us, you should then understand why everything was in place already when you arrived and asked for help. You may find it easier to accept the full AA program and be more appreciative for what you have today. So true. I'm so grateful for Alcoholics Anonymous. The trouble Bill Wilson went alcoholic in the world. But you know what Bill Wilson did? He was to publish this in a book, sharing about what he was like and how he was like afterward. And his drive to carry this message to other alcoholics, that's a blessing. That had come from God alone. So then on forward to the second edition, you can read the first paragraph. Yeah, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
no problem. XV everybody, forward to the second edition. Figures given in this forward describe the fellowship as it was in 1955. Since the original forward to this book was written in 1939, a wholesale miracle has taken place. Our earliest printing voiced the hope that every alcoholic who journeys will find the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous at his destination. Already, continues the early text, 2s and 3s and 5s of us have sprung up in other communities.
Okay, yeah, thank you, bro.
Cool.
Since the original, yeah, you good right there. Since the original foreword was written in 1939, a wholesale miracle has taken place. See, they are already seeing miracles taking place. To take a alcoholic, or people think we just some outright mental defects, right? But for a real alcoholic to have his life change or to change his life, that is a miracle. Yes, when the desire to drink is gone and we recover from this thing, that is nothing but a miracle, something we couldn't produce ourselves. So our earliest printing voiced the hope that every alcoholic who journeys will find the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous at his destination. Back then, and when this book was published, they was meeting in houses. Started off maybe once a week, right? But now you fast forward to today. You can go to meetings 24 hours a day now, either whether in person or at home. Birmingham, Alabama, which is 50 miles from my door right here, they have meetings 24 hours a day around the clock. Alcoholics Anonymous and all different other kind of anonymouses. But in the Zoom format, we can touch people around the world today instead of just in a single room. And that's a miracle too. And Bill prophesied about this later on. We'll go through that as we go through it. But anyway, you know, this is a miracle. Yes, so Alcoholics Anonymous is just a touch of a button away from us. You know, my sponsor from a different state, I recovered from alcoholism on Zoom 3 years ago. That's a miracle. But nobody face to face could do this for me. No doubt. That is a miracle. Because I had a lot of other people helping me along the way as well. But anyway, this program worked for me, and I know it'll work for anybody in the world. I just pray nobody suffers from alcoholism long as I did. That's why I'm so passionate about this thing. 42 years of my life ruined because of alcoholism. I don't regret today being an alcoholic, but I've made amends to the people I hurt. So, but if I hadn't been an alcoholic for as long as I would not be the person I am today. So go down to the bottom paragraph. Talk about this just for a second. It says the spark that was set to flare in the first AA group was struck at Akron, Ohio in June 1935 during a talk between a New York stockbroker and an Akron physician. June the 10th, 1935 would be Dr. Bob's sobriety date, right? I think that's right. That's when Bill Wilson approached him and they had their meeting together, which was supposed to only last for 15 minutes. It ended up lasting for 6 hours. So the beginning of Alcoholics Anonymous, one alcoholic carrying the message to the next alcoholic. So that set something off. And then the paragraph at the bottom of XV, it goes on to say, 6 months earlier, the broker had been relieved of his drink obsession by a sudden spiritual experience following a meeting with an alcoholic friend who had been in contact with the Oxford group of that day. He had also been greatly helped by the late Dr. William Silkworth, a New York specialist in alcoholism who is now counted no less than a medical saint by AA members, and whose story of the early days of our society appears in the next pages, which that will be the doctor's opinion, which we'll be getting to soon. So from this doctor, the broker learned the grave nature of alcoholism. The broker, of course, is Bill Wilson. Bill Wilson had been sober like 6 months, right? He had this, what we call a white light experience back in the hospital, and it relieved him of his alcoholism. So in the beginning, they might have thought that everybody needs to have this white light experience, but they found that it happens in different kinds of ways and varieties and form. And that's explained later on in the spiritual appendix on page 5, 6, and 7. So, but anyway, he was 6 months sober. He was on edge, kind of on edge. He was desperately wanting to talk to another alcoholic, but he found himself in a tough position in that Mayflower Hotel. There's a bar over here, right? Then there's a phone booth over there. Like it's got a phone booth. Bill desperately realized he had already realized he needed to talk to another alcoholic in order to keep him sober. Oh yeah, he was tempted, no doubt about it. He was tempted. I know we all been tempted here before. Well, maybe just that little drink it'll help me out. It'll take the tension off me. It'll take the pain away from me. So, but then anyway, thank God Bill went back and he got on the telephone instead of going in there and ordering that drink and pouring it down his body. So that helped Bill stay sober, and it started incorporating the group called Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's still going strong today. They just had a birthday on June the 10th, last week, as a matter of fact. Yeah, what, a week ago, wasn't it? What today is, the 18th? Yeah, a week ago. And what a blessing. It's 88 years later, right? And it's still going strong. See, today we got over 2.1 millions of people in Alcoholics Anonymous today. Quite a long way from one person to two persons. It's done expanded, and it's a worldwide thing. So, Brother Dan, if you'll pick up here on XVI where it says, from this doctor, it's like the middle of that paragraph.
Middle.
Yeah, where it says,
From this doctor,
from this,
found, yeah, XVI, beg your pardon. Tis the evening for us in the UK. From this doctor, the broker had learned the grave nature of alcoholism. Though he could not accept all the tenets of the Oxford groups, he was convinced of the need for moral inventory, confession of personality defects, restitution to those harmed, helpfulness to others, and the necessity of belief in and dependence upon God. Should we continue?
Yeah, you can continue to the Akron physician at the bottom of the next paragraph.
Prior to his journey to Akron, the broker had worked hard with many alcoholics on the theory that only an alcoholic could help an alcoholic, but he had succeeded only in keeping sober himself. The broker had gone to Akron on a business venture which had collapsed, leaving him greatly in fear that he might start drinking again. He suddenly realized that in order to save himself, he must carry his message to another alcoholic. That alcoholic turned out to be the Akron physician.
All right. Thank you, my brother. No doubt about it. Say, here about Bill Wilson, right? From the doctor, he learned the grave nature of alcoholism. You know how great Dr. Silkworth, right? He worked with over 40,000 alcoholics up there at that town's hospital. So he's seen what was going on in these people, and he sensed the changes in them. You know, it's theory that we alcoholics have an allergy to alcoholism. You know, it's based on a theory, but, you know, eventually we could probably tie this in together. See, a phenomenon of craving, a phenomenon or a malady, those are unexplainable events. We can't explain it. It's just something goes on in our body when we take that first drink, when we become alcoholic. So Bill spent several times in this hospital working with this doctor. The doctor explained to him the grave nature of alcoholism. Bill, well, in the big book, it's got 3 times he went to the hospital, but he went actually more than 3 times. I'd say 4 times he went to this hospital, but they recorded 3 in the book because he might have went probably before things was recorded. But anyway, after his 3rd trip, that's when he gained this vital spiritual experience. But the doctor seen what Bill was going through, right? And the doctor explained to him. Even the doctor told Bill, told Lois, Bill's wife, you might either die from a wet brain or you're gonna be locked up, or else you might kill yourself. And that's so true for us. We alcoholics, we can drink ourselves to death. So, but then back to Bill Wilson. Though, you know, he could not accept all the tenets of the Oxford groups. He was convinced of the need for a moral inventory, of which we know today is step 4, confession of personality defects, right? We know today is step 5, restitution to those harmed. Restitution to those harmed. That sounds like about step 9, right? We go out and make amends to people. Helpfulness to others. That'd be step 12. Then necessary, a belief and dependence in God starts at step 2, 3, 7, and then step 11. So the Bill didn't accept this thing from the Oxford group, right? He accepted some of the tenets, but he didn't accept all of the tenets. See, the Oxford group is a religious group, right? As a matter of fact, Ebby T, the one that came to see Bill in his kitchen that day, he come from the Oxford group to pass along to Bill what he had learned. And these were vital principles, and that's what it Bill. Vital principles. You know, this program, it tells us we claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection, right? But then it also suggests that we practice these principles in all our affairs. These principles are simply spiritual principles. And with this group being a Christian group, these principles come out of the Bible, right? But we don't study the Bible in this group, but we can talk, about it. But we're not trying to preach from the Bible. We simply want to carry this message from this book. But I believe in God. I believe in the power of God. So, we are free to share about that in any place we go. No doubt. So prior to his journey to Akron, the broker had worked hard with many alcoholics on the theory that only an alcoholic could help another alcoholic. But like I said, the first 6 months, he only succeeded in staying sober himself. He couldn't get nobody to accept what he was trying to present. So, that doing 6 months in that hotel, Bill, you probably getting frustrated because we alcoholics, we can get frustrated. I imagine he was probably saying, look, I've been helping with these people for 6 months and won't nobody accept this message. I can't help nobody. But then, boom, got in touch with Dr. Bob and it changed the whole world. Alcoholics Anonymous it's been deemed that it's one of the most, the top 20 of the most influential books in the world today. It saves lives. It really does. This book has saved millions of lives. But y'all imagine, what was people doing before Alcoholics Anonymous? All them years in the past, alcoholics just dying and hopeless and helplessness. They were just dying off. So, but that power up there is that great power up there that I call God. He already seen one day that us alcoholics was gonna need something to guide us by, because he knew it was going to be a lot of alcoholics in the world. Because I'm one. I'm a real alcoholic, like they describe in the book on page 21. And I'm grateful this book was produced before I was born. This thing was already in place that one day I would need it, though I tried to reject it for a long time. So then, back to Bill. He suddenly realized that in order to save himself, he must carry his message to another alcoholic. Once again, that was Dr. Bob, and that's who it turned out to be. Carrying the message. This step 12 action already, right? We ain't even got the steps yet. But we already see how Bill got the idea to incorporate these steps, and he put them in order. Wow, this is totally amazing. So, Brother Dan, we'll read that last paragraph and end that one on the top of the next page.
Yeah, sure.
XVII.
Yeah. Just following on the last paragraph, this physician had repeatedly tried spiritual means to resolve his alcoholic dilemma, but had failed. But when the broker gave him Dr. Silkworth's description of alcoholism and its hopelessness, the physician began to pursue the spiritual remedy for his malady with a willingness he had never before been able to muster. He sobered, never to drink again upon the moment of his death in 1950. This seemed to prove that one alcoholic could affect another as no non-alcoholic could. It also indicated that strenuous work, one alcoholic with another, was vital to permanent recovery.
Okay, yeah, no doubt about it. Y'all know the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. You know, Bill didn't find nobody in them first 6 months with a desire to stop drinking. But I'm so grateful that Bill didn't pick that darn drink up. Or else we wouldn't have this thing. We wouldn't have this thing today. So it says the physician, Dr. Silkworth, had repeatedly tried spiritual means to resolve his alcoholic dilemma. This would be Dr. Bob, I'm saying, not to him. But he tried all kind of means, right? But he had failed every time that he tried. So, but when the broker gave him, when Bill gave Dr. Bob or Dr. Silkworth's description of alcoholism and its hopelessness, the physician began to pursue the spiritual remedy for his malady. That's the second symptom of alcoholism, malady of the mind. We already know about the physical part. That's when we develop the phenomenon of craving. So he mustered him up with a wilderness he had never before been able to muster. He's sober, never to drink again up to the moment of his death in 1950. 15 years from 35 to 1950, Dr. Bob sobered up, never to drink again. He's a real alcoholic like me. So I know how it is. But then, when it says the physician repeatedly tried spiritual means to resolve his alcoholic dilemma but failed. You notice it said when he tried. When we try to fix ourselves, we can't. A sick mind cannot fix a sick mind. So I tried to fix myself, right? But it ain't work. But see, the doctor had already talked about this hopelessness. We'll see that in the doctor's opinion coming up, because he described Bill as a patient he came to regard as hopeless. When we are hopeless, we are in a bad state of mind. I was at the point of hopelessness and helplessness, spiritually dead, basically physically dead, and everything. Dead to everything except my drink. When I got another drink, I was fine until it wore off or I was running low. But that was my way of living. I had to have alcohol at all costs. But then what Bill goes on to realize at the bottom of XVI, this seemed to prove that one alcoholic could affect another as no non-alcoholic could. A non-alcoholic can't help us. That's just the bottom line. I've tried this in my experience. I've been in treatment centers 12 times. I've been in detox centers probably 15 times. I've been in psych wards many, many more times. And the people that was trying to help me through them years, they was non-alcoholic. They could teach me, educate me on what alcoholism does to the brain and what it does to the mind, but without the experience of Alcoholics Anonymous, I'd still be drinking today. Because if you're not alcoholic, a non-alcoholic don't have the experience that we real alcoholics have. So they don't even have the power to help us. They can suggest things all they want, but we alcoholics don't want to really hear that kind of mess that these doctors to be talking about. I know that was in my case. The greatest suggestion I finally took from that doctor, my psychiatrist, is, well, go to AA. Well, I said, I've been to AA all these years. And every time I went, I relapsed because I was suffering from something. But to find out I was suffering from my darn mind. My mind was twisted. I was dealing with a chronic alcoholic mind. So the psychiatrist, he couldn't give me enough pills, no nothing to work. The recipe I got was when I was 12 steps through this book, and it simply solved my alcoholic problem. And what a blessing it is today. So then at the top of page XVI, it also indicates that strenuous work, one alcoholic with another, was vital to permanent recovery, right? And that's our goal. That's what we reach for. We strive to have permanent recovery. And Dr. Bob spent his last 15 years in permanent recovery to the day he died. And my hope for today is that I die sober. Maybe it ain't gonna be soon, but maybe I can be around a lot longer to carry this message. But anyway, that's our goal, is permanent recovery. We don't want to just get sober for a while and start back, because I tried that too in my 40-something years of drinking. I felt if I got sober for 3 months, 6 months, it was okay for me to go drink again. We know how that turned out. Right back to the day I started, and it got worse. As time went on, the progression got worse, and my behavior got worse. But you know, behavior didn't make me no alcoholic. Uh, what made me alcoholic is I couldn't control the amounts I took. Once I took a drink, shoot, if I was trying to control it, I couldn't enjoy it. I would get miserable and crazy, especially in the last days and years of my drinking. And if I was trying to enjoy it, then I'd lose control anyway, because I was out of control. We know alcohol, what's real alcoholic. Once we lose control, we can't never go back to be the same person. There is no reverse effect. The doctor says stresses that complete abstinence is the only way, and that is so true. So, but then the rest of the forward to the second edition, it talks about the expansion of AA, about how the work came about, and how about the members was picking up some periods of sobriety, and just basic information, showing the progression of the group. But then what I love here on XVI, where it says in the first full paragraph, the very first case, a desperate one, recovered immediately and became AA number 3. He never had another drink. This was the man in the bed. You see images? I got the man on the bed on my wall up here behind me. Bill and Bob went to see this man on the bed. This man on the bed had been in the hospital 8 times in 6 months for alcoholism. Remind me of myself. I used to have to end up in the VA hospital 4 to 6 times a year, 30 days, 45 days at a time. So that was about a year was spent, a lot of those years, suffering from alcoholism. Because I didn't have a solution. Thank God the solution was found in this big book, taking the steps in this big book. Thank God for that. So fast forward. Let's see how much. I ain't got much time. We'll try to just hit some points and highlights on the rest of this. It's still history. That's basically what the forward to the second carries. You know, we had dealings. If Alcoholics Anonymous would have got paid, Rockefeller would have funded Alcoholics Anonymous, it probably would have fell apart. No doubt, because we don't need no outside embezzlements like that, because things wouldn't have went right. So on page XVII, you know, it talks about Rockefeller. So if you want to read about it, you can. And it talks about in the spring of 1940, John D. Rockefeller Jr. gave a dinner for many of his friends, to which he invited AA members to tell their stories, right? So, and it was a dinner. Money would have been involved. It would have been on the table, but thank God they didn't take it. Then AA was making articles. We could talk about the Jack Alexander article. That's a great article as well. I like that. Page XIX, very first paragraph. It reads, as we discovered the principles by which the individual alcoholic could live, so we had to evolve principles by which the AA groups and AA as a whole could survive and function effectively. It was thought that no alcoholic man or woman could be excluded from our society, that our leaders might serve but never govern, that each group was to be autonomous, and there was no professional class of therapy. There were to be no fees or dues. Our expenses were to be met by our own voluntary contributions. There was to be the least possible organization, even in our service centers. Our public relations were to be based upon attraction rather than promotion. It was decided that all members ought to be anonymous at the level of press, radio, and films, and in no circumstances should we give endorsements, make allowances, or enter public controversies. This is grounded on the traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous. Of course, as we go through the next couple of weeks, we'll be going through the steps. Because next week we'll finish up the forwards. Yeah, we'll finish up the forwards next week, and hopefully we'll get on into to the doctor's opinion. That's really gonna be great. I love going through the doctor's opinion. That's where we find all the a lot of the information that we need. So time flies when you're having fun, man. Wow. But
Yeah,
I do want to, it really does, man. But I do want to share this. I love to share this because this program is ingrained into my life, the spiritual way of living. It's on top of page 5, 6, or 7, right? If you want to turn there, you can. That'll be fine. Where it reads, the terms spiritual experience and spiritual awakening are used many times in this book, which upon careful reading shows that the personality change sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism has manifested itself among us in many different forms. Wow. Sufficient enough to recover from alcoholism. This happened to me when I took the 12 steps, Pete. Although I didn't want to take them for them 40 years, but eventually I got beat down so bad that I took them. And when I took them, it became a blessing because it brought me to being recovered from alcoholism. I don't struggle with alcoholism no more. The problem has been removed. The book gonna tell us that. Several times it's gonna tell us the problem has been removed. So, I can't see no reason why I would be struggle. The big book tells us we relax, we take it easy, we don't struggle. I ain't gonna struggle with alcoholism as long as I keep fit spiritual condition. I talk to my God 24 hours a day. When I think sometimes they wake me up at night and say, who you talking to? I say, I'm talking to God. That's what I'm talking to. So, I mean, that's just the way life is today, Pete. And I remember all them years of me drinking. Shoot, I thought I was God. I had to have the power. But thank God, page 55, it tells us we found that great reality deep down within us. Wow. So that's going to do it for today. I appreciate everybody being here today. I hope somebody got something out of it. And like I say, I want to just go back to the beginning today. Just do want to go through the doctor's opinion, be a story, stuff like that, and help people as much as possible. Like I said, the past several weeks we've been on spirituality. Most of the things we've been into action on spirituality tip, but always we have to go back to the basics and just go through it. Because it's a textbook. The more we study, the more we learn, and the more we can incorporate this collective experience, and it becomes our experience. See, today I had a message of Alcoholics Anonymous thanks to this program. And God, thanks to God first, and then thanks to this program, I no longer have to suffer with a chronic alcoholic mind. So, but anyway, thank you, Brother Rob, for the information, putting in the chat. Thank you, Brother Dan, for being my great sidekick every week. And thank everybody for being here again, and God bless. So we'll close it out. And afterwards, if any comments, questions, complaints, whatever, they'll be accepted.
that's
Thank
cool.
God.
Thank you ever so much for facilitating today yet again, Kemble. It's been really great one again. Thank you for joining us. Information on the YouTube channel where the audios from previous audios and this one will be posted. I'll be able to unmute you once I've clicked stop on the recording, but let's just lead us out with the step 3 prayer on page 63, everybody. If you care to join me. God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. Thank you, guys. Amen.
Okay. Thank you, brother. Amen. Amen. We don't have an amen in the book, but we can